All right, let's try a take two. Sorry about the audio issues that I had earlier. Uh, can anyone in the comments tell me if you can hear me right now? And I will wait for someone to confirm here. Let me go ahead and type. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So the first time I went through this, my audio was messed up, but I did want to say that I don't expect many people to be here for the live today because I haven't really, I guess, advertised this anywhere, and it is something that I wanted to do moving forward, which was do post game analysis as Grimsby America instead of my recorded videos. Which I do love my recorded videos because I can look a little bit smarter instead of I guess a knee jerk reaction as I'll be doing right after the game because I don't have time to actually analyze and rewatch things, and it's just my face value opinion. So what I'll be doing is I'll be doing like what I normally do. Okay, I'm gonna be going over a few notes that I have on the game, and I do want to point out a few players. And if you're in the comments watching this live, or if you are watching the rerun of this, let me know in the comments whenever I get to things because I'd love to talk to you guys, and it's more fun when I can converse with somebody, even though I know you're not on video. It's a little bit more fun when I can be have a little bit of conversation going as I'm talking about it. But my initial reaction is what an interesting game. That was probably the most piss poor point we could get, and I hope that is the most piss poor point that we get all year. Because I felt like 95% of that game was not exactly fun to watch. Well, don't get me wrong. Anytime I'm watching the club play, especially from America, it's fun to watch. But it wasn't pretty, I guess is more what I should say. And so some of the in-game notes that I have here is obviously I've got to shout out the goalkeeper, right? I mean, I pretty much feel like I do this every video because being a lifelong goalkeeper myself, I always want to at least show some love. And I'm going to start off by showing a little bit of love to the opposing team's goalkeeper, which was Easty. Easty made his return to Blundell Park, and I am happy he did not get a clean sheet. But if anyone was going to get a clean sheet against us at home, there are far worse players that it could have been. Because from all I've read, Eastwood was a good player, a good teammate, and someone that you should be happy is on your club. And I'm glad to see him doing well. And on FotMob's very always accurate rankings, as we all know, they've got him actually as the best player on the pitch. I don't necessarily know if I 100% agree with that, but I am glad to see him up there. But the real reason I wanted to shout out was our keeper, Pim. And there was, I forget it was early on in the game. I think it was slightly near the halfway point of the first half, maybe 17 to the 25th minute, somewhere through there. Pim, well, Burns actually gave the ball away, and that's a player I'm going to talk about here in a minute too. And it was pretty much it was an ugly giveaway. Just call it like it is. And Pim had to make a choice on what to do. He was essentially one-on-one with the player, and the choice he made, I think, saved us from giving up yet another goal. And obviously, I wanted to show us a little bit of love for him for that decision making. That was a great choice that he made, and he early on, I thought he looked in his tenure with us. I thought he was making some questionable choices, but he seems to be getting sharper. I think, and especially with his decision making and his timing. So I love to see that, especially for a goalkeeper. I guess we could say he's undersized. So I think as an undersized goalkeeper, seeing someone make choices like that, I think goes a long way, especially as we're going to be relying pretty heavily on him because our backup situation is not exactly the best. It's not like last year when we had two keepers that were essentially arguably at the same level that offered different things. This year we have a bona fide number one. And of course, our backup Casper. I don't really know what to expect from him, but he's a loney player, so I prefer to give more love to our players versus loney players. No offense to the loney players. And so I did want to point that out. But one of the players I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to try to keep it to 3 players, but I may go over on this particular game. But was Burns. It looks. Let me see. What do they have him listed? It looks like they have him listed as essentially the worst player on the pitch. I think that might be a little harsh. I think he was pretty much an extreme player today. And what I mean by that is he was either really good or really bad. And that giveaway was obviously very ugly, but I do think at least he was doing something moving forward, which was something we struggled with today. And there was a cross he had. Let me see if I've got the time written down when that was. I don't exactly have when that was in the game, but there was a cross that he had that he overhit it, and I think that pretty much. And then there was also a shot on target that he had that was also very nice. So I think that perfectly described his day today, which was just up and down and all over the place. So he caused chaos, but he was chaos to us, a little bit of a liability. And another player that I wanted to talk about was Warren, Tyrell Warren, and I think I would argue that he may have actually been the best player on the pitch for us today. Although he wasn't necessarily doing anything. The whole attacking three struggled today for some. Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to get into Kabia in a second, but I agree. And Vernum was essentially a ghost today. But with Tyrell Warren though, I thought he defended great today. There was actually even a I don't know if you want to call it a clearance or a save, but it looked like it hit him right in the you know what region. And after that, I when I saw it happen, I was like, oh man, that had to hurt. And then when he got up, I could see it in his face that he was in pain. I don't know if it was a direct hit to his region, but I know it had to be close and I know it had to hurt. But he got right up, even though he was kind of wincing in pain, and ended up making some great plays. Tyrell Warren has, by the way, I think he might be the most improved player over the past year on the squad. And but that's just knee-jerk reaction here talking. And another player that I wanted to mention was, at least for a positive reason, was Greeny. He did not get his goal today, but I actually think he was the only one that was offering anything worth a damn moving forward. He seemed to be the only player that seemed to consistently offer something moving, or at least I should say consistently having full effort going forward. At least he was out there doing something, which I can't say the same for the other guys. Then I got Warren has proven a lot of people wrong playing center back. Yeah, I agree, and he's very versatile. And if you're looking at him and you're looking at him play, you're probably thinking he is a left back or a right back, but I think he's filled in quite nicely playing center back. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about him. I think we're lucky to have him. I think we're lucky that he's developed into the player that he has developed into, at least playing center back. Now, a couple of the other things that I wanted to say was toward the end of the game here, McJanet. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch this because I couldn't tell how much of the ball he got or what he got of it, but it looked like he got just enough of the ball there. I think I've got the time written down. It is the 72nd minute, I believe it was, where it looks like his foot just clipped the ball, which slowed down the ball just enough. And I think if he had not have done that, that would have been another goal, because I don't know who the player was that was right behind him, but he had a very clear shot on goal, and he had Pim beat. And so it's so funny because some of the people that I know and talk to on X, I don't even actually know your names. I just know you by your X handle. And every time I think of McJanet, I think of obviously the McJanitor. And so shout out to you again, even though I shout you out on the videos all the time. But I can't think of McJanet without thinking of the McJanitor now. But anyhow, yeah, and I think McJanet is obviously was another player on the pitch that was probably needed his flowers today. And actually, they have him rated as our best player on the pitch. And yeah, they have him rated as our best player on the pitch. Although I would argue Greeny was the best player on the pitch. It just didn't show because there was no end result, because he was the only one offering anything. But the last point I wanted to talk about our actual players is, and I hate being negative, and I do think there's a difference between criticism and negativity and feedback, I guess you could say. And I think it's time to have a very serious conversation about Kabia's penalty kicks. And I wish I had this information right in front of me, but what is that? Is that his fourth missed penalty kick of the year? I don't know. I wish I had this information right in front of me, but I don't know his penalty kick, his percentage, and how many he's missed. But his percentage cannot be good, and I have to wonder. He's an electric player, but I think it's time to have a serious conversation if penalty kicks are his thing. Now, to play devil's advocate here, obviously Danny Rose is not on the pitch usually when Kabia is on the pitch. So who would you have as the penalty taker if we are going to be in the boat where Kabia is not the penalty taker? And don't get me wrong, I usually have money on Kabia getting a goal, so I'm always happy when he scores. But I am at the point where I think it's time to look elsewhere. And, if I'm looking at the team that started today, which I think is the exact team that started the last game. So just hypothetically speaking, say this is our bona fide starting lineup. If you take the PKs away from Kabia, who do you go with? And I see there's a few people in here. I'm just curious. Why is Kabia still on? Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. Kabia needs to be taken off penalties. We also miss the physicality of Danny Rose. Agree with that too. And by the way, Danny Rose not being in the lineup today was, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if he had a knock or something, but him not even being in the squad was a little surprising to me too. But I'll touch on that in a second. But going back to the penalty kick argument, I do think it's time to make a switch. But if you're looking at the squad right now, assuming this is the A squad, who do you go with? Who do you make the change to? The three names that just pop up in my head is Green, because he's a veteran and he's usually the captain when he's on the field, and I think he is, even if he doesn't have the armband, I think he's the heart and soul. My next would be Vernum, and another option for me would be Burns. And I'm not saying Burns would be any better, and I know that might be a little risky, but he's a young player that we're trying to develop, and I think that would do probably maybe even something for his confidence moving forward, especially, I should say, going forward and moving forward. Both those work. But does anybody have any names in the comments on who you would go with if you're making the change? I would definitely like to see some of that, some of your opinions. And if you're watching this on the replay, let me know in the comments too who you would make the switch to, because I'm all for one or two missed, but at this point it's becoming a trend. And I think we were very lucky to get the draw today, by the way. If Alamazor had not got the rebound pass on that, or the rebound on that, we'd be looking at no points today because of another missed penalty kick. Who do we have? Vernal McGreen. Yeah, I agree. Uh, those would be probably my top two options, and my dark horse would be Burns. But yeah, so I do think that's a conversation we need to have at this point, and I have not seen Artel's comments on it. I don't know if he's addressed that in the post game or anything like that, but I'd be interested in seeing if he says anything about it after I get off this live. And so that's, I mean, Staunton had a nice little move there too. That's worth a shout. But or actually, I think it was Sweeney. Sweeney had a nice little move. But I guess let's go ahead and get into what we got coming up, because if you've watched any of my other shows, you know I do the game that we just had, and I do a little bit looking forward. So if you're not interested in my opinions on the Sheffield or the Barnett game, I'm not going to be offended if you tail off right now. So in terms of our cup game we got coming up against Sheffield Wednesday, I don't really like talking about cup games just because you never really know what you're going to get. You never know what kind of lineup you're going to get from us or the opposition. I think lower level squads tend to be a little more stronger than upper level squads when it comes to cup games. There's a little less rotation, but I do think, actually, let me hit on that real quick before I get into that. Our subs, I think the past few games have also been a little lackluster. And let me go down here a little bit and see if I can see if it'll show all the subs here. Okay. Sorry, my screens are a little inverted here, so it takes me a minute to get going here. So we got Reese, Justin, Jamie, Clark, and Jude. So a couple of things here. And also, I'm very curious about people's opinions on, and I asked this on X about Clark Adore, and I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I believe he's Kenyan, so I don't know if there's another correct pronunciation of that last name. But he's one of our loanee players from, I believe, what is it? I forget exactly who he's from, actually, but one of our loanee players. And does anyone have an opinion on Clark Adore? Because I hate to say this, but and I hope he proves me wrong. And anyone I'm ever critical of, I hope they prove me wrong, because I mean, why would I not? This is the club I support. Obviously, I want you to prove me wrong if I'm being critical of your play. Bradford, that's it. I almost said Brentford, but yes, Bradford. I don't see what he offers yet. Let's see. I think I missed him. When Rose is absent, team is noticeable. Never rated Kabia. I think Kabia's electric in terms of his speed, but I'm his finishing, especially on pins. Vernal, yeah, I would have no problem with Vernal being on pins. But anyway, so Clark Adore, to me, because he's a sub we've used quite a bit, and I've yet to see him offer anything unless I'm just missing something, unless I've just completely dropped the ball. And does anybody have an opinion on him? And then there's another guy that Jude's June Sunsup Bell. That's a mouthful. He got absolutely bullied today, I thought. He's someone that I was very high on when he came in. Jude, I'm talking about Jude in this case. He was someone that I was very excited to see, actually. And I've been a little, I don't want to say disappointed, because he's obviously not got a whole lot of game time, but I've expected a little bit more for him to make. And again, I know he's a sub, and you only get a few minutes at the end of the game, especially in his case. But you got to make those minutes count. And today, I thought he got absolutely bullied. So Adore and Soonsup Bell, in my opinion, right now are on watch, because when we are a club fighting for promotion, I don't think we have time to let players continue to keep coming in and offer nothing, and in some cases be a liability. And work on that in practice, not necessarily in live game time. I'm okay with it to an extent, but when there's a trend, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. So if anyone has an opinion on Clark Odor, let me know. Let me too. Let me see. I got another comment. Let me read this here. Yeah, not a rot really. Bradford warned us about him. Really, I didn't see Bradford fans supporters warning. Do you know what they said exactly? I'll have to go back and find that. Become player Artel. Yeah, I agree. Don't get me wrong. I trust Artel's judgment. I really do. I think he's one of the better managers in English football, and I'm not just saying that to be biased. I've supported him since day one, even when it wasn't necessarily the most popular decision to support him. But I do trust him. But at the same time, it's sometimes you got to be critical. And in the case of these two players, said he was lazy. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree thus far. So yeah, I'm glad we made subs at an acceptable time this game, because that is one criticism I have of Artel is he waits a little bit too long to do subs sometimes. And today I don't think his timing of the subs was incredibly wrong. It's just the subs, in my opinion, well, shouldn't say all the subs, but a lot of the subs offered nothing, and I think that's been the case for a few games this year. So I'll go on to the future, which we got Sheffield Wednesday on Tuesday, and I do want to say I am going to make this a regular thing where I'm going to go live after the games. And for the few that are here, I do appreciate you being here. I really, really do. Because I didn't really advertise this beforehand or anything like that. So even just to get a handful, it means a lot to me. And I'll be doing this pretty much every game, except for the weekday games, which unfortunately Sheffield Wednesday is going to fall on the weekday. It's only because when the game ends is literally the exact time I'm getting off work. And, could I do one when I get home? Sure, but I didn't watch the game, so there's not a whole lot I can say other than just reading X. And that wouldn't make for a very fun show, especially for me when I wouldn't know what I was talking about. But if you did read my X, there is a guy that I work with from Sheffield. What made you choose Grimsby? I'll tell you that in a second, actually. So there is a guy that I work with from Sheffield who moved here to Florida last year, actually. He's a big Wednesday fan, big Wednesday supporter, and we have a little bet going on in the office, and our director actually allowed us to do it. The loser has to wear the opposing team's kit and take a picture in it, pointing toward the badge with their finger up. So that said, I definitely at this point do not want to wear a Wednesday kit. And how about that is some bizarre decisions, by the way, too, being made by the Wednesday owner. I've heard him mention it a little bit about how their club is essentially in shambles, as he said. But their choice about the tickets was bizarre to me, and I can't wait to actually talk to him about that on Monday, and ask. And the ref was a joke today. 100% agreed. 100% agreed. And that well, I think it was Brophy, right, that took down Kabia. That was ridiculous how you missed that. And okay, so as someone, some people know this, some people don't. I don't know if my wife is in this chat or not, but I have applied and I've been doing through the training to be certified by the U.S. Soccer Federation, which is who does the certifications here in the U.S. and to get my referee license, because at this point, I played pretty much my whole life up until maybe 3-4 years ago, and at this point, I'm trying to get into the ref gig, which obviously has much more of a lifespan in it as I've hit my 30s. To it than being a player, and you also don't make a lot of money here in the U.S. unless you're playing in MLS. But some of the calls, it's not even just today, it's just some of the calls that I've seen from refs in League Two are just absolutely horrendous. And the call today, especially that Brophy when he took down Kabia, I don't even think he knew what to do there. And I was hearing the announcer say that he didn't even actually see it. And it sure looked like it. It definitely sure looked like it. And then there was another moment there where who was it? Was it Alamazor that was getting just absolutely pushed there on the line on that free kick there toward the end, and he was acting like it was Justin's fault? Yeah, 100% agree with the refs on that one. And by the way, I would have showed Brophy the red card. I don't know about you all, but let me know in the comments too if you would have showed him a red or a yellow. I think it was red worthy, especially since it was off the ball. It was straight up nonsense. But back to Wednesday. I don't know what to expect from Wednesday, but I do know their goalkeeper quite well, who is an American actually, and he's probably my favorite. And I promise I did see your why'd I choose Grimsby comment, and I'll address that in a second. But their goalkeeper is an American, Ethan Horvath. He's actually my favorite American player in general, and obviously he's a goalkeeper, so that goes hand in hand. And but one thing I've got to notice about, well, one thing I've got to admit about Ethan Horvath is he's very shaky. And if you don't know anything about Ethan Horvath, I urge you to do this. I think it was last year, the beginning of last year. Ethan Horvath cannot play with his feet whatsoever. There was a back pass to him when he played for Cardiff last year, and not only did he, it was there was none. I don't even think there was any pressure on the ball. It was just a simple back pass to him. He didn't even touch the ball. Went right between his legs, and it was an own goal. He is prone to errors. He is very much a confident goalkeeper, and as someone who's watched probably him play 30, 40 games, he's very prone to a cross that goes to the back post as well. In fact, I remember watching him play for the U.S. one time against a Central American country. It might have been Costa Rica, Panama, Honduras, something like that. And there was a back post cross, and he was just set in position. It was almost like his controller disconnected. He didn't even move out of his set. He just sat there. I don't know what he was doing or what he was thinking, but point being is, if you can get to him early, and I hope Artel is doing his homework on this, if you get to Ethan Horvath early, he's going to allow 3. I think I even saw him allow 7 goals one time. But he is just, if you get to him early, his confidence gets shattered, and he questions every choice he's making. And I think we have a squad that can actually do that. But again, cup games are hard to talk about, I think, just because you don't know the effort that the squads are going to do, and you don't know the teams the squads are going to bring. And let me read this other comment here. If he's giving it, he has to give it the red. Yeah, I agree. And I think that was a missed red too, in my opinion. But the thing is, I genuinely don't think the ref even saw it, and which is why he sort of panicked in what he was actually going to do. So our next league game is against Barnet, and I'm seeing the Barnet score on the screen right now. It looks like they won 2-1 today against Crew Alexandria. So that makes some of my points minute. So I'm going to have to readjust some of these. So some of the points I have for Barnet is they had not won since August 23rd, which obviously I should now change that to they have not won since today. A positive and a negative against them, I think, is they've only scored multiple goals one time this year, and I guess twice this year now since they scored 2 today. So, but they've also scored in 7 straight games. Well, I guess now 8 straight games. So they do score. They just don't score a lot. And Barnet is they're an interesting squad to me because they dominated the National League last year. And some of the preseason predictions I saw, some of them had Barnet finishing in an automatic promotion spot. Some of them had Barnet finishing fighting for relegation. And right now they're kind of in between that. So I actually think Barnet is a decent squad, and I do think they can be lethal. So I do think it is a squad that we have to take seriously, despite their standings compared to ours. And I think this has the makings of kind of like their game today. I think this has the makings of a 2-1 game. I always like to give predictions, and I'm going to predict Town beating Barnet 2-1. I don't know if is it an away? I'm assuming it's an away game. Does anybody in the comments have? I don't have that right in front of me either. I'm assuming it's an away game. I'm assuming they're probably going down. What is it, North London? I believe they're located at. Which, by the way, I do think, unless they're in a new stadium right now, I do actually think they have a nice little stadium, especially for the level that they've been at the past few years. But that is what I have to say about the future. Now, the last thing I wanted to point out is the women's team. I know I believe they have their first league game coming up soon. Let me see if they've posted about it yet. Let me see. One of the cons to doing this live is I can't edit out these things. I have to just kind of look as I'm doing it. Okay, so they did post yesterday that their next game is Chesterfield at home, but I don't see a date and I don't see a time. Yeah, it's at high. By the way, and seriously, shout out to Brentford. Not Brentford, Jesus. Barnet, because I think they actually named their stadium very appropriately too. And I always think they have some cool kits too. And they used to have a he's not there anymore, but they had a Nigerian that played for them a few years back. Goodness, I want to say he was like the joint Golden Boot winner at one point, maybe 6-7 years ago. I forget his name, but I've never hated Barnet, and I like their crest too. And yeah, proper little club they got there. But the girls have a game at some point. Don't know when it is. They did have some sponsorship opportunities that I saw, and I thought, what a better way. Because my birthday is on September 29th. And I thought, what better way to give myself a birthday present than to support the club that I love. And I saw they had some sponsorship opportunities, and I sent them an email inquiry about it. I have not heard back yet, but I hope I hear back, and I'm interested in hearing back. So to see if I can support them in some type of way, we'll see what happens. And I did want to get into that question I got earlier about why did I choose Grimsby Town. So I'll make this quick because I've already said it, and actually I'll post on my X. I'll post it on my X after this goes off. I don't exactly Grace123. I don't exact. If you follow me on X, I'll repost the video. But I did go over it in detail why. But just to give you the quick version of it, I'm from a very well. I grew up mainly in two different places, and they're both. If you Google both these places, you're going to see a lot of negativity. You're going to see a lot of negative news. You're going to think it's basically the worst place, most depressing place in the world to live. And as I was really, really getting into English football, I started following Americans at first. I was watching, sometimes you'll see the QPR scarf in the background. I started following Americans. They had Jeff Cameron, Reggie Cannon, Charlie Kellman at the time, and Fulham's always had Americans. And when I was watching QPR, one of the things I noticed was I don't exactly fit into their fan base. They're a little more, I guess, bougie, you could say. And I couldn't relate to them as fans, even though I did like their club and I like their players. But I couldn't relate to them as supporters and fans. And I wanted a community that I could relate to with a club that had strong support. And, years later, here I am. I've been a trust member for, I think, going on. I'm about to hit my anniversary, my 1-year anniversary of being a trust member, and couldn't be any happier with my choice. And one of the things as an American is you don't grow up with your dad's team, because your dad's team is usually an American football team. And yeah, I hope to pass it down to my kids one day, and hope to be at Blundell Park in the near future, once I get some things worked out with my family. And that's one of the first things on my list to do is to go there and meet everybody and have a good time. And let's see here. How would I strengthen the squad? Oh man, I don't know. I don't necessarily. I think the players are there. To be honest with you, I think the players are there, and I think the depth is there. I think it's just getting the most out of the players, and if anything, maybe getting some veteran leadership in. That, and I know we got Greeny and Rose, but and I know it's a little goofy, but in the preseason, I always advocate for signing a veteran that's a little over the hill. That can maybe only offer a little bit on the pitch, maybe a last minute goal. Some of the players that I've kind of jokingly laughed at was Andy Carroll and Charlie Austin and players like that. Players that have been there and played at the top level and just love the game. And if I was going to say, there's not a whole lot of changes I would honestly make. I do think we need a backup keeper that's actually ours instead of Aloni. Um, and I do think Alton is going to be a nice young guy at some point. Which I don't know what. Let me know in the comments what he did for Grimsby Borough today. I know he started today, and I don't know how well he did, but I do think he's a nice young keeper. But I do think having at least someone of ours that we're not going to freak out if we have to put in case something happens to Pim would be a good wouldn't be the worst idea in the world, which is why I'm actually surprised we didn't keep Eastwood. But yeah, I think it'd be cool to have a veteran player come in and just to keep everybody on their toes. But I like our squad. I think we have a solid squad, and I think the squad has the talent and the manager to see promotion through. But let me see these comments that I missed here. Legend meaning, yeah, I agree. And plus, I think the Premier League, frankly, is boring. When I was younger, there were a lot more personality in the Premier League, and I think the players wanted it more. And I think the badge on the front of their chest meant a lot more to players back in the day. Now I think the Premier League is just robots. I'm not saying I blame players for taking money, because if we're all put in that situation, I'm sure we'd be making similar choices. But I just think the heart is gone from the Premier League, from a lot of clubs. Not from the supporters. The supporters are still there. Not from all the players, but you see a player like Jack Grealish, who is one of my favorite players to watch. And I think he's got an hilarious. I don't drink, but I think he's got an hilarious personality. I love seeing him hit videos and pictures of him at the pub, just with normal people like us. And when he went to Man City, I thought he got turned into a personality-less robot. Gone are the days of Mario Balotelli and Zlatan. Even Zlatan when he played for Man United there for a bit. I feel like those players are just gone. I think 2014 was the peak of international football, and I think club football has followed not long after that. And yeah, money ruined the game. You're absolutely right. I mean, look at the World Cup prices here, and don't get me wrong. I'm very thankful and excited that the World Cup is coming to my country. But the sad thing is, I'm not going to be able to afford to go to a game. I mean, the cheap tickets right now are going for like $1,500 per ticket, and that's not counting the outrageous parking. It's probably going to cost $200 to park. It's not counting the traffic that you're going to get into. The I mean, I don't go to football matches to eat, but I know some people do, and I'm sure the food's going to cost $50 for a beer. But football is it just seems like every day that goes by, it's not made for people like us. It's made for celebrities, and I think even one of the things that what let's see what Premier League teams over. Yeah, it is a joke. It absolutely is a joke. One of the things that the NBA, there was an NBA owner here in the U.S. New York Knicks. I don't know if you guys watch the NBA. I don't watch the NBA, but I'm sure you've maybe at least heard of the New York Knicks. They redesigned Madison Square Garden, which is an historic venue, and they actually took away more seats when they redesigned it and repurposed it. There's less seats now than there was before, but there's more suites because that's where the money is. And the more they don't care about the normal fans anymore. All they care about is the celebrity status of who's going and how much suites they make. Because selling one suite box is probably the equivalent to who knows how many rows in the normal sections. But yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but I've almost exclusively stopped going to sporting events just because I can't. Even though the matches that I can afford, I can't justify paying that. There's a lot of other things I'd rather buy with that, like more Grimsby kits, more Grimsby merchandise. You know, there's a lot of other things I could do with my money than giving an owner that'll never know I exist. And but that's what I like about lower level football. And then one of the reasons why I respect Grimsby so much is there's still a trust. There's still a trust that actually has a little, even though it's, a lot of trust, their say is becoming smaller and smaller as the years go on, just because lower level football is not profitable in a lot of cases, and I completely understand it. But I find myself now, there's a league here in America called USL. They're trying to compete with the Major League Soccer, which, by the way, Major League Soccer is to me a league that is everything that's wrong with football or soccer, if that's what you want to call it. Everything that is wrong with football is represented by Major League Soccer. Because the owners do not care if they put out a winning team because there's no relegation in Major League Soccer. And I know that's a conversation for another day, and I know that doesn't affect Grimsby whatsoever. But moral of the story is the owners, they care less and less about the community and the supporters every day as long as they're getting money. Yeah, I agree. That's where the true football is lower level. And yeah, I agree. You'll never get the same passion. I mean, gosh, what was it? I would rather go to so in the town that I live in right now, there is a USL. Where I was going with that earlier, there's a league called USL League 2, which is not even a professional league. They may have they're under the USL umbrella. So think of it as like if Grimsby had a reserve squad that they were playing in like the 10th tier of English football, right? That's what the team in the town I live in is. I would rather go watch them for free and buy their kit for $30 than go to Orlando City and pay $80 for a ticket, watch players that do not care because they're getting paid either way, and an owner that doesn't care because he's making money either way and their team's not getting relegated. Although they did bring in Kaka like 10 years ago. That was pretty cool. But guys, my computer had just gave me an update that it is dying and I cannot put in my charger while my microphone is connected. So it's about time for me to end this stream. I enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for everybody who did show up. I do think I peaked out around 12 from what I saw, which I know is not a lot, but to me that's a lot. And it means a lot to me that you all came here. And I'll post the video of why I became a Grimsby supporter in detail. I'll post it to my X account as soon as this stream ends. And if you're interested, you can watch the full story there. But thank you so much for everybody that showed up. and I really appreciate your support, especially to my channel. I mean, I hit 1,000 watch hours this week, and I'm pretty sure 970 something of that have came from Grimsby supporters. So my channel would not even be where it is without you guys. I appreciate you all so much, and as I said, as soon as I get my family situation figured out, cannot wait to be there with you guys and meet you all. And as I say in every cast, if there's something, tomorrow's a fresh week. If there's something you're looking forward to this week, I hope it comes true for you. If there's something that you're trying to do this week and really looking forward to, I hope it happens for you in the best way possible. And you have a good day too, my friend. And as always, up the Mariners, and you all be safe. And thanks for coming out.